All right, guys, let's go ahead and kick over to the professional side of football with some more big contract news. A pair of all pro tight ends secured some big paydays. George Kittle agreed to a record setting 5 year, $75 million contract, making him the highest paid tight end in NFL history. Kittle has made two straight Pro Bowls and holds a single season tight end receiving yards record with 1,377. Not to be outdone, Kansas City dug even deeper in the coffers a few hours later, finding $57.25 million over 4 years for Travis Kelce. This extension ties Kelce to Kansas City for another 6 years, where they hope he'll be instrumental in a few more Super Bowl runs. So, Jay, some deserving guys, no doubt, but which signing do you think's better?
First of all, this is a great topic because we talk about who's the best at their given positions, and I love seeing the best player get the best contract. And these are your two tight ends, head and shoulders above anybody else. No disrespect to the likes of Zach Ertz and the comeback dude down in Tampa Bay. I forgot his name, but anyway, George. I go in George Kittle, and normally I like to go with the guy who got paid a little less and who might be the better money value. But I think, to me, when you consider George Kittle's age and when you consider what he means to his team, I like the Kittle signing better. And when I talk about the value to the team, tight ends, we forget. I think this is easy to overlook when we talk about the tight end position. It's not just about catching passes, even though there are a lot of tight ends that lean toward that, and they're all about those numbers. But Kittle's a guy who does it both ways. He's an elite receiver, and he's a great blocker. And I'm not going to get into I'm not going to steal what Cody has for us in his thing, but you can just watch. You can just watch George Kittle play and watch Travis Kelce play, and you know who the better blocker is. So he's got the upside in that. But on the receiving end, I think it's fair if you want to give Kelce an edge over there. Now, I got no problem with that. But think about what Kittle has, the complementary weapons that San Francisco has for George Kittle in the receiving game. There's really not a whole lot to speak of. I mean, he brought in Emmanuel Sanders last season for the stretch run, and he was of great service to them. Deebo Samuel's a young guy that we like, but I mean, really outside of that, there really isn't a whole lot to be excited about. I guess, Brandon Ayuk, you drafted him. We'll see how that goes. But my point is, defenses, when they come out there, you know who they're looking at. You know where Jimmy Garoppolo's coming with. They're coming to George Kittle, and yet he's still productive as ever. I still look back to that New Orleans game from last year, that shootout in the Dome, where he makes that catch late and gets about 40 yards after the catch to set up the game-winning field goal, I believe it was. But Kittle's 26, Kelce is 30. This contract is going to keep Kelce around in Kansas City until he's 36, I believe. Mm-hmm. Who's to say? I would venture to say Kelce's going to slow down to some degree by that time. So I'm going to go Kittle here, but by no means is either signing a bad signing. Both of these are really good contracts for two teams just in the Super Bowl that continue to take care of business as we approach the 2020 season.
Well, first of all, I want to say when you think about that question, which signing was the best? Well, you got to look at it in multiple avenues, I think, because are we talking about financially? Are we talking about production-wise? It's a lot of things that go into that. But with all that said, hey, I'm pretty sure every other tight end in the NFL sitting at home saying, "Oh, we back, baby, we back." Because listen. And correct me if I'm wrong, but tight ends, I mean, you think about this. Austin Hooper got paid in the offseason. These two guys got paid now. We haven't gave a rip about tight ends like this since Jimmy Graham was wearing the Saints uniform. Like, let's be real here. What tight end, like, I might be wrong, but when I thought about it, first glance, I'm like, all right, Jimmy Graham, when he was with the Saints, he was cutting up because he wanted to get paid as a wide receiver. But what tight end moved the needle news-wise outside of these two? If I'm wrong, tell me one that I'm missing.
You probably have to go back quite a while, yeah.
So I look at this, and I'm like, for tight ends, it's a very good sign. This is a sign. People saying, listen, you go out here, you play, even though this is an offensive league and it's all about the quarterbacks and the wide receivers, tight ends still getting love too. As you can see, they still getting love too. To answer your question, I'm gonna go with Jay. He's right. it's very hard to say Kittle is not the best sign when you talking about the age. And the age is a very good thing. But what got me, the quote that I heard from the head coach, Kyle Shanahan, that got me was, he said, not one time has George Kittle ever came to him and asked him, complain about the fact that he's not getting the ball thrown to him, want him to run a play that's specific for him to get the ball. He said George Kittle has never complained to me about getting the ball thrown to him or his production. What he asks me every game is, who do I need to go smash and when do I need to go smash him? That's it. That's all he cares about. He is a football player's football player. You dig? He is out here. He want to put the helmet on the helmet, the shoulder pads on the shoulder pads, and his own helmet on his head. You know what I'm saying? You seen the play where he dragged like 3 dudes down the middle of the field. He was more excited about doing something like that than he was actually catching the ball. You've never heard George Kittle say anything about, I got this many catches. That's what our job, I guess. Our job is to tell people he got this many catches with this many yards. But with that said, I think for where the teams are right now, I think Travis Kelce is more important to what Kansas City is doing at this exact moment than Kittle. And I'm going to tell you why. We know that the 49ers is a running team predominantly, right? They only throw the ball every so often, which helps Jimmy Garoppolo, which keeps them on time, and it helps their defense. Kansas City is not a run team, meaning Patrick Mahomes need his catching threats a lot more than Jimmy Garoppolo need, I guess, catching threats. I think Kittle works well for what he does now as far as being a premier blocker, a guy that you have to make decisions about, but he's not a guy that's one-dimensional. I think that's very important for what San Francisco is doing. And this is what I was saying to Jay earlier. If you flip the situations, I don't know if they necessarily work like they work now. I think it's because of the schemes that allow both of these guys to excel at what they do best. Travis Kelce is not the blocker that Kittle is, but they don't need Travis Kelce to be the blocker that Kittle is. You know what I mean? Just the same way as Kittle might not catch as many passes as Travis Kelce, but they don't need Kittles to catch those passes. So it's two different things that benefit them. And I think we need to understand that. And I think the tight ends understand that. It gets so caught up where players want to make as much money as possible, and then they end up going to a situation that don't work for them because they're chasing the money. Whereas when you're in a situation that works for you, why not capitalize on that? It's probably, I don't know, that's a lot of money. But I'm willing to say it's some teams that would have paid Kittle maybe more. I don't know if they're that thirsty for a tight end. But you know what I'm saying? He's in a situation that pays him. He's in a situation that he likes. And look, I was telling Jay this before I get out this subject. Both of these teams are doing very good with their off-season transactions. I want to make that to be known. Listen, San Francisco to sign everybody. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, now Kittle. You took care of the running back Mostert. Like, you drafted another wide receiver. We got to see if that pans out, like Jay said earlier. But you're making these moves to get back to the Super Bowl. No doubt about it. You're trying to get back to the Super Bowl. We see it. Kansas City, they draft a running back with their first-round pick. They took care of Kelce. They took care of Mahomes. They took care of Jones. Listen, they're taking care of that business, the small stuff that we don't care about because we don't want to see the action on the field. When I see both of these transactions, it makes me think we might be heading for a rematch in the Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. I understand the talent outside of these teams had gotten better. But when you see a good team, it's kind of like this. Golden State, right? Golden State was already on top of the league when they was on their dynasty run. Then they went out and got Kevin Durant. You're not going to tell me after you seen that transaction, you didn't think, yeah, we're going to see Golden State in the championship again. You know what I'm saying? It was just the rich getting richer. And I feel like these moves that they're making, they're getting richer. We'll be more competitive, but they're getting richer. So with all that said, I think for the time right now, in the immediate, I would probably like Kelce for the next probably 2 years while I got Patrick Mahomes hotter than fish grease. But over the terms of the contract, I'm going to go with George Kittle because of his age. And eventually he will. You have to think at some point San Francisco will tweak their offense a little bit where they do pass the ball more. Maybe they get a quarterback that's more confident. Then we see a more complete George Kittle when they get a more, quarterback that they, they're more confident that he can pass the ball and, they're more confident in skill set. So, yeah, to answer your question, man, yeah, I'm going to go with, like I said, Kelce for the next 2 years, I would say. And then for the duration of the contract, it's Kittle for sure.
Yeah, you guys laid it out really well. You're talking about two perennial all pros that are going to be. When you look at the rest of the tight ends, I mean, there is clearly a chasm between these two and even your second tier guys like your Hoopers and your Hunter Henrys and whatnot. Your Zach Ertz. There's clearly like a divide, right? And these are two teams that like you said, they just got to the Super Bowl. One won it. One was a drop pass or two from winning it. But they've both had this all in, throw it back at the wall approach where a lot of teams looking to like cut fat and cut bag. Well, we could probably do it again, but we got to worry about this and that. These guys are just like, nope, don't care. We're going to do what we got to do. So, yeah, big props to them. So as far as the number crunch goes, this contract, what's really interesting is Kittle's deal is, again, 5 years, $75 million, and it's going to be on top of the last year of his rookie deal. So he'll have that, and then he'll have the rest of it. And that's important to note because this shatters the tight end market completely. This isn't just a minor reset. This is a complete total reset of the market. Austin Hooper's deal with Cleveland, $10.5 million per year, that was your benchmark. Henry was making $10.6. That was on a franchise tag. So you had your baseline. That was your bar set. Kittle's deal is $15 million per year. That's a 40% increase. Now, that's not good math to pay a player 40% above their value at their position, right? It's just not. I mean, let me put it in perspective for you. If this was Patrick Mahomes' deal and he was going to make 40% over the next highest quarterback, he'd have to rake in $63 million per year, not just the 45 he's going to make per year. But and also, like you said, Drink, San Francisco leans more on the run than they do the pass. So you might wonder, well, this doesn't sound like a great idea then if I'm framing it like this, but there's some things you got to note. Number one, San Francisco rushed for 5 yards per carry with Kittle on the field, and that dropped to just 3.5 when he was off the field. And in the 2 games he didn't play in 2019, San Francisco amassed 2.63 yards per carry and 60 rushing yards per game with no touchdowns on the ground versus 4.83 per carry, 156 rush yards per game, and 23 rush touchdowns. So you can also look at the fact that Kittle was just ranked the 7th best player in the NFL by the other players in the league. Yet he's paid like he's playing in the mid-50s on that list. So some of the math checks out and goes, this looks pretty bad. But then when you look at the total package that Kittle provides to the 49ers and, what his overall value is, it's kind of like a Christian McCaffrey situation where, yeah, he's making a lot more than his peers, but he also does more than his peers. So maybe that money is well spent. And in this case, it looks like it might very well be. And also, Kelce's deal is nice too, 57.25 over 4 years. It's 14.3 per, so it's a little less than what Kittle got in terms of guarantees, 28 versus 40 million total. But you have to remember, Kansas City probably built in a little bit of a keep the band together discount that they've been doing with guys like Jones and Mahomes, which you could any of those guys you could argue could have maybe made a little bit more money somewhere else, but they wanted to stay in Kansas City. They wanted to keep the winner going, and Kelce is also 4 years older than Kittle, just now on the wrong side of 30. So, he'll have 14 years in the league when his contract ends. So, yeah, overall, if this was most guys, I would go, this is just too much money, man. This isn't it. But for what they're getting with these players, it's hard to argue with it, man. These guys have been two of the best in their position and should have been paid like it.
And to carry out one thing that you said, for anyone that says, okay, this is outrageous that you'll spend this type of money on the tight end, who else would you spend it on that offense? You just told Mostert, listen, calm it down. We'll pay you some, but we ain't paying you all that. Like, calm it down. Jimmy Garoppolo, we know how they feel about him, right? So it's like, okay, yeah, they are paying a lot for a position that you might not find premier, but he's the best player on their offense, bar none. If you want to say, well, Kelce not the best player for Kansas City, true, but I do think he's the linchpin for Kansas City, right? Like, I think Tyreek Hill is the best player on the offense. Well, I guess you got to say Patrick Mahomes because he's quarterback. But outside of quarterback, I think it's Tyreek Hill. You know what I'm saying? Then Travis Kelce. But I would say this, if you take Travis Kelce out of that offense, it's not the same offense whatsoever. I think he is a de facto leader on that offense. So you know, it got its pros and cons, but at the end of the day, if your tight end is what keep you, if other teams get ready around your tight end, pay the man. That's just all it is to it. If your team get ready around the running back, pay the man, and that's what we got. So